endless skies. Oh, I'm living that nomad life, city to city, feeling alive. From mountain tops to ocean drives, unchained, I thrive, I thrive.
All right. Thanks for joining us. This is Nomads 50 Plus. My name's Chris Kalaboukis, and I'm coming at you live from a very sunny Silicon Valley, California.
And this is Mary Bartnikowski, and I am also in Silicon Valley, Palo Alto, California. Wanted to tell you that I can help you realize your travel dreams and start your journey this year. So get in touch, and the CEO of Fun, which is me, and you will talk.
And I think I was thinking about that. I'm going, maybe I could be the CTO of games because you're the CEO of Fun and I'm the CTO of games.
I
Fun and
like
games.
it. I like it. It's related, but it's still different.
Related but different. Yeah, that's I was racking my brains. I'm like, what could I be? What could I be? I'm kind of technical, so I could be the CTO of something, but
Yeah,
it can't just be fun because you got fun nailed down. You've nailed you have fun totally nailed down. So
I have. I'm an expert.
awesome. So here's the thing is that a lot of people are concerned about doing this or jumping into this because of money, right? They have all sorts of concerns like how am I going to make money? How am I going to pay for myself? How am I going to fund my travels? Things like that. And in a previous show, we talked about how it's not as expensive as people think, for
Hmm.
one.
Yes,
So on the flip side, it may not be as expensive as people think, but on the flip side, people could be concerned about how they're going to pay for their travels, right?
absolutely.
And so everybody has a different way of doing it. So
Hmm.
let's dig into that a little bit.
Okay, great.
Who's going to start?
Well, you know what? I'll start.
Okay.
I was thinking about this when you suggested it yesterday about the money thing, because in my own 19 years of solo travel, mostly 99% solo travel in 34 countries, I've done it a lot of different ways.
Mm,
And so there isn't one particular way to do it. Like I hear people go, "Oh, how can you do it by yourself?" Well, it's pretty fun.
mm,
It may be daunting to think about, but you actually can do it. Other people I hear say, I used to rent my place, my property out, and
mm-hmm,
I did that for 4 years. I had wonderful tenants,
mm-hmm,
and that's another way to do it. Like one time I came back from India. I can't remember how many months I was gone that time, but I had actually made money
mm.
by renting out my place.
Yeah.
And there was maybe like a profit margin of, I think, 500 per month. But in India, this was when I was traveling in the Himalayas, um, doing some very interesting all through the mountains and staying in these monasteries, which is just a donation, volunteering. I mean, I didn't spend any money. I
Yeah.
think
So
I
you
was
actually
spending
made
like,
more, you made
yeah,
more money because you were
yeah,
you were living in a place where it was inexpensive and you were
yeah.
renting a place that was expensive, renting
So
out. Yeah.
So that's the thing. So that's like just one. There's many different ways of doing this, and I've done all these permutations of travel, and I want people to realize I used to think that too, and I thought that when I was making a much bigger income.
Mm,
So I thought, like we've talked about before, like that you have to do it at a luxury level. No, you
right.
don't. And even a middle, medium great level is it's completely it can almost feel like luxury after, living in ashrams and monasteries.
It's all about the contrast of what else you've
Yeah.
done before.
Yeah. And I used to overspend on, five, 600 a night in these fancy hotels. And this was in the 90s,
Mm,
as we talked about. That's
super
what it was.
expensive.
Yeah, that's what it was costing then, which, five or six or seven times more now. But you don't have to do it at that level. Plus, not only not that level, but the United States is the most expensive country in the world to travel in. So
Mm,
as soon as you start traveling in other countries, including Europe, like I just did a little piece on Substack about French Riviera in the winter. I didn't know that it was affordable until I was there in January. I mean, so it depends on your season you go in. Um, of course, you're not going to go in the summer to Europe. Why would you bother with the crowds and the expense? It's
Well,
just,
you wanna put your bikini on and go into a nice warm Mediterranean Sea. That's why you'd want to go in the summertime.
but do you want to go with 10 million other people and pay $50 for a sun chair on a tiny beach?
Yes, that's what I want to do. Not
Okay,
really if you want to be a digital nomad. It's too expensive.
it's too
It's
expensive.
ridiculous. Yeah.
It's ridiculous. So for me, I'm looking at these prices going, oh no, I can get that for half price in winter and I love the no crowds
Mm.
and the sun is still out. Okay, the water isn't as warm, but you know what? I could tell a difference between so I got in the water in January in France in French
Whoa.
Riviera for a second. It's even on video. And then I did it again first week of April and it was a little bit warmer. It
Mm.
was doable. I saw some other people in the water. So, it just depends on what's really important to you. If that's really important to you, then go to the Caribbean.
Yeah, there's other places that are cheaper in the
And it's
summertime.
exactly.
Still
I mean,
crowded though. Still crowded. No matter where you go, you're gonna get
oh,
crowds.
it not everywhere.
Hmm.
Not everywhere. It depends. Like because like the January, February, you're not going to get a lot of crowds in different beaches in Thailand and Cambodia.
Right. And it's warm there all year round, isn't it? Because it's like near the equator.
It is warm.
Mm.
I mean, it can get a little cooler, but even I lived on an island in Thailand. I guess it was for 3, 4 months, and there were different beaches you could go to. Some were more popular. Like there was one that was so popular I never went there. It
Mm.
was pretty, but it wasn't my vibe.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of other places to go.
Yeah.
So would you, of all the different ways you do it, so you funded by renting out. I'm assuming you funded sometimes by actually working while were traveling. Other times you like piled up a bunch of money and then went traveling and then came back. Like what are the other ways you could have done it or you did it?
Well, we didn't ever talk about this, but on the working while you travel, I don't think I ever told you this, but when I would go to these places where there were expats, so you're not like just in a place where the only locals in a third world country, let's be honest, they're not going to pay me to do yoga with them.
Right.
They're going to want me to do it for free, and I have.
Hmm.
But okay, so I didn't tell you this. What I realized when I started staying longer in places, what there would be an expat community that you would want to align with
Right.
just for friendship. And then I started realizing, people started asking me to teach photography and yoga.
Mm.
So how I
For money or for free?
for money.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. And so I was doing that for a while. And how I did it in Thailand, India, Guatemala, and Belize.
Wow. And how did you get the business? Did you just talk
Well,
to people or?
yeah, so this is how I would do it. I had to learn, and it's not even legal to do this. But, you know, I actually found out afterwards it wasn't legal, but what I would do was I would print up little pieces of paper and go around and to like expat restaurant coffee
Right.
houses and either start conversations with people just because I was doing it anyway, or I would just go, oh, I'm going to put this on the table very quietly, and if they want to ask me questions, they can.
Right.
And if they don't, I'll just leave the little piece of paper and keep going. And that sparked a lot of conversations. And then I would also put up some notices around town. And then I would align also with some hotels that had expats coming because it was
Hmm.
more like, Westerners traveling.
Well, that's who your customers would be.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So those are the people that you would want, they would pay. They would pay sometimes for privates. Then I was doing this group thing at this Tibetan group photography teaching at this Tibetan summer house of the Dalai Lamas in India. And it was beautiful. So I would just, take people in a taxi. It was like a 20-minute ride from Dharamshala, where the Dalai Lama, I was living down the street from the Dalai Lama.
Nice. He's your neighbor.
Yeah, he was. And so that was a beautiful place. And I had 4 to 6 people in those groups.
Nice. But you could have done it legally if you wanted to. I'm assuming there was ways of getting permits
Yeah,
and stuff
there
like that.
are way. Then I found out, oh, okay, so there's a way to do that. And then, you can do that. And then of course, and that was fun.
Hmm.
You can also do another thing where if you don't want to just come right out and say, oh, it's going to be $20 to do this, ask for a donation.
Right. Well,
And
I'm assuming
then
that in that culture it was a lot more common.
for donation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
But you wouldn't
Not,
do the same thing. Would you do the same thing in Italy if you were doing photographic lessons in Italy?
I I haven't tried it there, but remember I told you a couple weeks ago I had put a notice on a Facebook group page not saying a price. And then I didn't get a response. So I thought, huh, that's interesting. So it depends on the community and the willingness of the people there. And if there isn't anything else like that, like when I was renting a house in Guatemala on Lake Atitlan, I had this beautiful terrace overlooking the lake. And I
Mm.
thought, oh, I should start teaching privates right at my house. And I
Mm.
was I was getting people. But that was because nobody else was doing that, and that's what I do. So it's like you have to kind of figure out, is there anything else like this offered? Is this different than what I can get? Like I don't remember any other yoga in that area. Now it's, this was like 10 years ago. So now yoga's in more places, but I don't know anybody else that was doing it on their terrace overlooking the lake.
Right. So from that
So
perspective, you had a skill that you were selling to expats in those other countries. So that's who your customers were. You weren't selling it to the locals. You were selling it to
no.
other expats. Okay.
No, I just found that I didn't really have a consciousness about travelers wanting services
Mm.
until I started buying them myself. Like in any expat group, there's going to be somebody that does the best massage
Hmm.
or the best something, and everybody's going to know about that person.
Right. Once you
And so
join the group. So it's really important to get to be part of the group.
it is important.
Mm.
So you also want to be like in Guatemala, you're just so far away from everything and everybody and like it's not like Italy in the way that, everybody wants to go to Italy.
Hmm.
So maybe there's more services like that. I don't know. I haven't really investigated. So the other way, of course, is, to do a contract remote job or do freelance stuff.
Right. Well, I think that's probably what most people are thinking. They'll do freelance remote stuff or they'll do a contract job. Or like what I do is like, you have a regular day job, and if you can get them to allow you to work remotely, then you should be able to take that regular day job anywhere you want, as long as the time zones line up with what your employer expects. Right?
Absolutely, because like when my son was living in Nepal for 12 years, he would
Yikes.
be aligned with Silicon Valley investors for his foundation that he'd have to be up at 3 o'clock in the morning to talk to them. And
Oh
he
yeah.
was just used to it.
Yeah.
But I
But that
wouldn't want to do that.
but that's And if you, I know a graphic designer who lives in Thailand. He has a wife and child, and he
Yeah.
does all of his work from there. And he does do meetings in at Silicon Valley time sometimes, but most of the time he just does his job at regular hours. Because as a freelancer, depending on who you're working with, you need to work with them, or you may not need to work them. You can do plenty of work outside of their hours. And it's something that a lot of companies totally understand now because everyone's got offshore staff. So they have, you know, plenty of employees that work completely different hours and they have to just work around their schedule too. So I think it's doable. But of all the ways, like piling up the money or working while you're traveling, which one do you prefer?
Well, to be honest, I would say
And
I
we only
do.
want you to be honest, you know. I only want to hear honesty.
Yeah, I know. Whenever you preface, to be honest, but it's maybe not what everybody is hoping to hear, but I actually feel the most free when I can pile up the money
Right.
and then not be, because I work on a lot of projects that are not going to make money at the time that I'm working them. Like every year in Italy, I'm writing a lot,
Mm.
and that's going to pay off later.
Yeah.
Um, or I'm leading a retreat. I forgot to mention that. So
Oh,
I'm paying people over to do a retreat in Italy or Mexico. Those have been the two most
because you're
used.
you're familiar with it and you know what it's like. It's almost like you're a and what kind of retreat? Like a yoga retreat or a photography
A
retreat?
photography retreat. Those have been the most successful, but I've also done yoga and writing
Ooh, at the same time?
at the
How's that?
same
That's
time. So
difficult. I can like
we, no, we
you can't
do
write and
we
go into
do
the
the
child's pose at the
yoga.
same time.
We do
If
the
I guess I
yoga
could
and then
reach out really far and
and
write
then
while I'm
yeah, I can see why you thought that, but it's not that. So we do the
okay.
yoga and it opens you up creatively, and then we do the writing. And I've done a bunch of those.
I love that. That's a great idea. That's a
Yeah,
great
people
idea.
have liked it because you don't have to be any kind of flexibility. You don't have to be a writer that's been writing forever. And
Yeah.
everybody that's come to those has been really a good writer. Like it's been so great to see the blossoming
Yeah.
after the yoga
Well,
and
it's the
meditation.
creative. It's these creative tendencies that people have. Like they want to write, they want to take photographs. This is
Yeah.
all stuff that they can do wherever they are in the world. You know, you don't need some kind of machine or some kind of device to do it. You just need something to capture what you're creating. You could even be just a notebook, right?
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
and
yeah.
those things you can literally do anywhere in the world.
That's right.
So you
So,
you're of the you're the 4 hour work week proponent, which
yeah,
that was Tim Ferriss's thing.
I wish I could get only 4
No,
hours,
he's like
but
so I think that whole book is hilarious because he wrote this about only working 4 hours a week, but
yeah.
he never I'm sure he never did work 4 hours a week.
Yeah.
He probably works like crazy all the time.
That's what I'm thinking. So, the title alone doesn't make me believe it.
No. And the thing that I remember that struck me the most interesting was that he talked about his specific generation and how it was all about doing a bunch of work compacted in a compacted amount of time to
Yeah.
pile up a bunch of money and then use that money to go do whatever you want for a certain amount of time. And then when that money starts running low, go back and do another compacted pile of work and do it again and do it again and do it again. Now, some people might think about that and go, "Oh my God, what if I can't get the work or whatever?" You know, so that's not right for everybody.
Right. So it's not right for everybody, but I have done that the most, and
Mm,
it has worked, and it's given me the freedom to decide what I want to do as I go along. So, like, that was really helpful when I did the one-way tickets all the way around the world as I went. I mean, doing those around the world tickets, like, I highly recommend you don't do that.
mm,
Because it's very expensive and you don't know how much you're going to love a certain place, and you can just, you end up not spending that much anyway.
right.
So there's no savings. Like, that's such a myth. Like, I looked at the prices once just to educate myself, and I was shocked what it costs. And I just thought, how no fun is that
Yeah.
to have to decide before you even get there how long you're going to be in a city or
Yeah.
country?
Well, a lot of people like that level of planning, right? Because it's all planned out for them and they don't have to think about it. But then, like you say, what if you really start to enjoy a place and then all of a sudden the next day you're gone. You got to leave, right?
That's happened to me so many times.
Mm.
where I was in the jungles of Nepal and I met this great group of people from all over the world.
Nice.
One person I'm still friends with, and we were having the best time laughing and getting together every day. One time my son called me, he's like, "Who are you with?" Like, I don't think he's ever heard me have that much fun before. And we're just walking along in the jungle in Nepal. And, I've never replicated that. Like, it was just everybody was perfect and fun. And
Mm,
so I kept like putting off leaving. Like, I'd say, "Oh, I got to leave tomorrow." And then I'd change it. And then we'd have another going away party.
yeah.
And then, we were having so much fun. I mean, I wish I'd stayed even longer. It just was, kept having these parties. And then the bus went on strike. And
Yeah.
it just, so anyway, so after that experience, and I was going to Italy after,
Mm.
like that's,
So that would have been great too, you
and
think?
and I didn't want to leave Nepal because all these great people that I had met from Germany, from England, and then some local people. I mean, it was crazy fun.
Mm.
And so I feel like if you're going to plan the whole thing, just plan the amount of time
Right.
and then do whatever the heck you want while you're in that time because you can't really predict how much fun you're going to have and where it's going to happen and when.
Yeah. But then you have to have a big enough pile of money piled up to be able to do what you need to do.
Yeah, and so that's what I did a lot. Have the
Mm.
pile of money and then take my time in places where I knew what everything cost. And you just get better at knowing what everything costs in what season. And so you know how to extend your budget.
So you do budget the whole thing ahead of time, more or less. You say, okay, I'm going to be in Nepal for these 3 weeks, and it's going to cost X, and you just sort of do up a spreadsheet with all that information in it.
I I never did a spreadsheet. What I would do because I've been to
You put on
Nepal
your visor
six.
and bring out your accounting pad.
No, it's just, I've been in Nepal 6 times.
Hmm.
So I know what it costs. So I don't even really have to add it up in my head because it's like, oh, it's going to be, I don't know, 15 or 20 bucks a night or less for
Are
lodging.
those books useful at all? Like such and such country on 40 bucks a day and stuff like that. Are those useful at all? Did you ever use those?
No, I didn't use those. What I did use when I started out, but then I just stopped, was I would get like a guidebook for like the whole country. But
Mm.
then I would find when I was in the country that the prices would fluctuate so much that it
Oh, okay.
really comes down to the season and then the year and then who. Sometimes I would go somewhere and I'd be like, "Oh, the person that wrote this didn't come here." I can
Seriously,
tell.
there's travel books where they never actually visited the
No.
places. Wow.
Yeah, and I think that's actually what might have happened with Lonely Planet. It was started by this great couple, and then it got bought and went corporate, and it was like you would read it and go, "Wait," and then go to those places, and it wasn't anything like. So they
Wow.
just they
So
just
those
upped.
guidebooks are BS then. You don't need to use them at all. Those
I
kind
don't.
of guidebooks.
I stopped using like at first my son was like, seeing me using these guidebooks. He's like, you don't need to like I carried this South America book all through like 6 countries of, South America. I didn't need that. I was backpacking. That took up
Yeah.
way too much room.
That's actually a really good insight is, don't bother with guidebooks. I think people, because I know I have a bookshelf full of guidebooks and I'm like, did these ever actually really help me? Probably
Well,
not, now that I come to think of it.
you know what they're fun for is to look at the pictures if the photography is good and go, "Oh, I'd like to go there."
Yeah.
And read a
Yeah.
little bit of rudimentary stuff about it. But things change. People like there was this wonderful place in Cambodia on this beach that I went to and my son went to separately, and then we went together.
Hmm.
So that place had changed a lot in the different permutations, And the people that we wanted to stay with, he stayed with them and turned me on to that place. And we each had our own studios for $200 a month
Wow.
US,
Nice. Nice.
$10 extra for air conditioning, 2 blocks to the ocean.
110 for internet. No.
Yeah, included,
Oh, awesome. And it was good.
included.
Amazing.
Okay, and so that place had changed. It had gotten taken over um by it was mainly China. China was coming in and they were setting up all these casinos and it got ruined.
Oh, that's too bad.
And so the
That's
people
too
we
bad.
liked staying with moved to another city in Cambodia. They were from Eastern Europe. And so they were like, "No, we're not doing it here." So
Right.
that kind of thing changes and you almost want to go to the place like because those people were so wonderful, you want to stay with them again.
Right. And so you just did you stay in touch with them?
Yeah, I'm in touch with them. Yeah, if I wanted
Nice.
to go to Cambodia, I'd get in touch with
How
them.
do you manage all these contacts? You must have huge amount of contacts for all over all your travels.
I do. Yeah, it's either so the hard part is that not everybody's on every platform, so you have to remember that okay, they're on Facebook, but I could find them on Booking if we ever lost touch on Facebook. Like
Yeah.
that's why I sent you the YouTube link because it's like some people are just connected with me there. They might be connected on Instagram. Like it's
Yeah, you
crazy.
have to you have to basically be across all the platforms because it depends. I know in Greece, a lot of people use Viber, right? And you
And I
familiar with
never
Viber?
use that.
Yeah,
Hey, do you use it?
only when I'm in Greece
Okay, see,
because everybody in Greece uses Viber. And so
that's
like in
interesting.
Japan and other parts in Asia, people have Line, right? So there's just so many different and I think in Korea there's Kakao Talk or something like that. So there's so many different mediums. It's almost like you do need a spreadsheet with like if I want to talk to this guy, it's on WhatsApp and blah blah blah, and this is how to get to them just to remain organized.
Yeah. But isn't that a great problem to have that you know people all over the world?
That's amazing.
Because,
So
that just wasn't true 20 years ago.
so you said your recommendation is to do the piling up of the money
Well, the
and then
reason
coming
I
back, or
say
is that just what you happen to do?
that's what I happen to do.
Right.
I don't know if I would say, well, I can recommend it because I did it so many times that even when the money started going down, like I would say, okay, I've got like six or $7,000. This is what I'm spending. I'll come
Yeah.
back when it's gone,
Yeah.
or I'll make some other.
But so you'd have to look at it and you'd be like, okay, my supply is running low. Time to go home. And then you would get some more gigs, or you already had some gigs in the pipeline so that you knew that you were going to be able to start on that when you got home.
Oh, I always had gigs coming back.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I'd
So you do have to
land.
set yourself up. If you're going to do the pile of money travel during that period, you still have to work on what like where your next pile is going to come from.
I had to hit the ground running,
Right. Yeah. Yeah,
but
because you weren't working during the time you were away. But if you're working during the time you were away, then that is a kind of a release valve. Maybe you could have stayed away longer or whatever.
definitely. And so that's what I'm working on now because I want to go back to see. I used to be gone 6 to 10 months every year, and
Mm.
now I'm only doing like 3 to 4, which isn't enough for me.
Yeah. So you need to be away longer, but that also means you need to bring in more cash. So you're
Yeah,
looking at ways of doing things. So it's kind of like the multiple streams of income sort of thing, right? It's like multiple
yeah,
stream. I forget who wrote that original book, but he also wrote a sequel called Multiple Streams of Internet Income, which is kind of like what we're all ending up doing, right? It's like we're all
right.
trying to figure out how to monetize what we're doing and
Yeah,
monetize the content because the content can be created anywhere, as opposed to your like you were talking about retreats and stuff like that. Retreats probably require a lot of coordination and planning and timing, and even though you get a decent amount of money in that one shot, it requires a lot of effort. Whereas if you were just creating content and somehow your content that you were creating was paying for things, then it would be able to allow you to stretch things out and maybe even eventually do that full time,
Yes.
right?
And I think that's very exciting.
Yeah. And I think we're at the point where we can do that. We're at the point where we can do that because there's so many platforms that pay, right? That you can actually leverage that into something. But it's like any other business, you have to have customers, you have to have audience, then you're going down that whole path, but you don't necessarily need to have a huge audience as long as you've got a committed audience.
Well, it's funny where you find clients. I mean, it, it's just, it can be in real time. It can be, I mean, I got a really nice, this was years ago, but it was like this editing job on Upwork that the guy was in South Africa with an avocado farm and needed some writing. And we just worked great together. It was only like a 5-day gig, but he seemed like a golden gem in the Upwork. Like, okay, here's a caveat. I think with these platforms, though, you have to be careful what you're paying and how much research you have to do to find the gems
Right.
that you're qualified for.
Mm.
And so it's not as easy as everybody says, because in some ways, my best writing clients have been face to face, or somebody recommended me, or yeah, actually, all of the ones that were the best were someone recommended me.
Yeah. I think the platforms have a tendency to you'd be very lucky if you find a good one. But and they're so overloaded with spam and crap and stuff like that. I think they're almost not that useful anymore. Things like
Well,
Upwork and Fiverr and stuff like that.
yeah, and so and even the big ones like Airbnb, I've
Hmm.
been they asked me to teach photography 7 years ago, but it's not, and sometimes I do it, but it's not that easy to always work with them for
Mm.
different reasons. I don't need to go into it, but they take 20%, so I'm not making as much as I would
Yeah. So it's
if I
better to do it directly rather than going through a platform. But even that's kind of fraught with difficulties. So you kind of have to be an entrepreneur, right? You basically have
oh,
to do everything yourself. And that's another thing that I guess people might be afraid of is, when I was working a corporate job, I had my little box that I stayed in and that was it, right? And now when you're out of the box, you got to do everything. You got to
oh
do,
yeah,
yeah.
you do have to do everything. So going into it, and I have been doing everything for so many decades that it's like,
It's
okay,
not that big a deal for you anymore.
no, it's not. It's
Yeah.
really not.
But when you first
Like,
started, did you feel intimidated that you had to start doing all these other things like, marketing and sales or were you always doing things like that?
what's funny? When the wedding photography business took off for me
Hmm.
in Silicon Valley, I never did any advertising. It was all word of mouth.
Yeah, because all you need to
One,
do is one, and you have an amazing experience, and then they'll tell everybody else who tells everybody else, and so
they
on. So
told
that is one of
everybody.
those businesses that does really work well by word of mouth.
Well, but I don't know anybody else that happened to. So
Oh, really? Other
when
photographers as well?
no, I
Huh?
know no, and I know some other
It's
ones,
because you're
and
so damn good. That must be what it is.
I'm damn good. So I mean, I didn't need to do any ads. So okay, but let me tell you this part. So then when the internet started in the 90s and people were like, "Oh, do you have a website?" I'm like, "You just got referred to me by three different people.
Mm,
I don't need a website." At
yeah,
first I was
you
like
would
that.
think.
Then when I don't know what happened. Oh, the financial crash. Okay. So
Mm.
then when that happened,
In
that's when
'08,
that kind of solidified you had to have a website. So
in
then
2008,
huh?
in 2008, that
No,
one?
before,
Oh, okay. Oh,
like in the
in
early,
2000.
yeah,
Yeah.
right then. And so it wasn't really until then that I had to get like really into marketing. And it,
Mm.
it was a shock for me because I was like, what? This has been all word of mouth for over 10 years.
Well, I think there was a shift, right? Because people were going from word of mouth because there was no other way to search to find things
But it's
to
such a better
now
way.
everything got moved to the internet. Well, it
I
is because
still,
it's like people are pre-vetted when you do
yeah,
word of mouth because,
yeah,
so and so recommends, and we've never been able to get back to that same level of curation that you get
yeah,
from word of mouth because you go to a website and you look at people's reviews and you're like, is this person even like me? Do I even know what this person is getting? Is this even real?
right.
Right? You can't even tell with so that's kind of ruined that kind of stuff
It
for
kind
us.
of
Yeah.
has, and so that's why I say it's not, you still have to work with that recommendation word of mouth thing if you can,
Yeah.
because we're too suspicious. Well, I mean, no, we're not too suspicious. We should be suspicious about stuff we read online.
Yeah.
And who says it's good? Like, can I really, like, when I have to hire somebody, I've hired people that they had wonderful reviews, and then the experience of working with them wasn't so great.
Oh yeah. No, I had that one time when I had an employee that I worked for at another company, and he was looking for work here, and I told my boss, "Oh, this guy's great. He's fantastic." Brought him in, and he did a terrible job. So my my reputation was like sullied, and I'm like, "What is wrong with you? What happened?" Apparently, he got a new girlfriend, and that's all he cared about at that time. So
Oh, God.
his work quality went down. But
A new
it's
girlfriend. Oh, God. Like, that's a reason. Oh, my
well, that's
God.
what he used. That's the reason he used. But it was awful. Eventually, we had to fire him remotely. We had to let him go remotely because he wouldn't show up for work. So we
Oh,
had to
my
send a
God.
letter to his house saying, "Hey, if you don't show up in the next 3 days, you're gone." Right?
Yeah. And
But
so, see, this is the thing. That's why, who is this person you're hiring online? Somebody just called me this morning about some travel thing, and I'm like, why are you calling? Like, what? And she starts asking me, like, how often I travel. It's like, I'm not going to start answering questions. I don't know who the hell you are.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
And
It's
I
true.
told her, and it was some kind of travel club. I'm not in those. I know
They're trying to get money off of you, right?
they're
So they're
trying to get
trying.
money up. She
Yeah,
said, do you know what a cold call is?
never heard of it. That's a new one.
Can you believe it? Like, she was treating me like some 85-year-old woman who probably knows. Most 85-year-olds would know. Anyway, I was just like, have you heard
That's
about
amazing.
cold? I know, I was completely stunned. And then finally I'm like, look, I'm not answering all these questions. I don't know who you are, what you're doing. I don't need to be in a travel club. I got my travel thing down.
Yeah,
Goodbye.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
It's true.
wow.
I mean, it's true. Like the moment you put up a website, you get like barraged with emails and phone calls going, "Hey, we can do your logo," or "Hey, we can do your design," or "Hey, we can do your this," and "Hey, we can do your that." And it's kind of like you don't want to be that person, but at the same time, it's like, how do you make money, right? You gotta figure it out somehow. And outreach is always more beneficial than just sort of throwing stuff out there and expecting people to come back, which is what you want, right? Because there's always this mixed message, right? Do I want this? Do I want this service? I don't want this service. I want to request this service from you, right?
Well, see, that's the thing that I think a lot of people that weren't born, that are, younger than 50, don't realize, because it's like, I don't trust people from online like I would if I met the person in real life. We
Exactly.
met at a networking event.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
and so, like, if you had just called me, I wouldn't have, like, I really remember meeting you, and I
Yeah.
thought you were fun. And I thought, wow, that's so
Too bad
neat that
that's
he,
changed, right?
oh, no, it hasn't. You're still fun.
Thank you
Um,
so much. That's great.
but
Yeah.
and as
Nice to
much
hear.
as, well, it's true. I mean, how are you going to get that kind of connection
Yeah,
in
you
an
can't.
email?
But I think that's it. We're kind of in a world where that's the case. So hey, how do you use that then? How do you use that connection? Do you only work with other people over 50? Is that how you say,
No,
okay, I'm
no, no, I
sorry,
didn't.
I won't work
No,
with you
no,
any because you're under 50.
no, no, no. I didn't mean that.
No,
I
I'm
just mean
kidding.
that
I'm
I could
kidding.
tell that the person calling me this morning was young,
Mm,
and was thinking I was dumb
Yeah.
for not wanting to get. I'm not going to talk to you about my personal travel plans. Like, who are you?
Yeah.
Why would
And
I
why are you
do
doing this?
that?
Yeah.
And so I thought that's weird that you would even think in a cold call that I would start answering questions like that. You
Well,
have no
maybe
experience.
it's worked for other people. See, that's the thing. It's like when you get these things, whether they're email or phone calls, you have to think this must work with some people. It's not working with me, but must work with some people because otherwise they wouldn't be doing it, right?
I don't know. That just seems very, I think people really keep trying ineffective methods.
That's probably true too.
Like we were talking about dating yesterday
Yeah.
and
They
how
keep trying
guys with
in effect.
beards
Yeah.
think they're going to get somebody hot and they are totally out of shape. We're not even talking dad bods. Dad bods
It's a
are fine.
numbers game. Keep going. Eventually you'll hit somebody, but it's kind of like spam email, right? I mean, why do they say, I think it's like 40% of the internet, I think 40 to 60% of the mail that's flying around the internet is spam.
Yeah.
And you're like, why is there still so much spam? And it's because it must be effective. It's cheap and it must get through to some people who click on it and go, yeah, I'll buy that or I'll buy that. So there must be still enough people out there who just click on this stuff. I don't know. Anyway,
No, I see what
we're
you're
going on.
saying. I hear what you're saying, but I think in this topic of what we're talking about, I think people have to be you have to lead with the benefits.
Yeah,
Like, that person that called me was like not giving me any information about who they were, what they're like. If you told me what kind of result I would get, like, I've been in business for 40 years. I'm not stupid. I live on my wits.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
tell me what I'm gonna get.
yeah, yeah.
So,
Bad messaging.
yeah, not just like I'll get messages like I'm from India. Like everybody says they're from India. Why are you telling me? I don't care. Like what am I supposed to be impressed that you
Just
live
give
in
me
India?
the most useful information that you
Y-
can.
Yeah, in a short amount of a time because I'm busy. So
Yeah.
anyway, my point being that if this whole online digital thing is just remember that people have to trust you. You still have to. Hey, this is what I'm considering currently sending like 1 minute video on Loom
Hmm.
to say, hey, I'd love to work with you. I've done the research. I think, here's how I could benefit you.
So
Do a brand.
that would be like how you market to people? Like you would send that cold to people
Yeah,
or
I'm
Mhm.
I'm considering, doing highly researched to specific people that I want to work with
Mm,
and have them see me in a video or whatever because they're not going to go to YouTube or they don't have time. So
yeah.
just send them like a very short video saying, "Hey, I saw this of your work. Here's how I could help you." As experimentation because so many people have approached me that 95% of them I wouldn't want to work with.
Right. So you know what works for you. So when you're communicating out. So what would you say like if you wanted to, let's say you were just like a regular corporate worker and your skills wouldn't really transfer to something that you would be able to make money at
Okay.
outside, like as a creator.
Oh,
What do you think is be the most accessible skill that you can use?
to be a traveler?
Yeah. So if you were going to make money while you're traveling, what do you say?
Oh,
What skill would you say is the most useful to have?
okay. You know what? Here's what I would suggest, and I've done this. I like to only suggest things I've done. When I
Hmm.
first started, I would do volunteer programs,
Hmm.
and I would offer um, teaching photography, doing some writing, doing
But
conversation.
you're good at photography. Like, what would be the skill that somebody would want to learn? The most accessible skill that they would be able to resell.
Well, resell. Hmm.
Yeah, because you said you were talking about writing projects and photography projects and things like that. Like of the spectrum of things out there that people could learn to do and get paid for, which one do you think would be the easiest to learn and be accessible?
That's a really good question.
I like to give the tough ones at the end.
Oh, okay. Are we almost done? Oh my God. It seemed like we just started.
We did just start, but the time just flies by. We have to do more shows like this on this specific topic
Yeah.
because I know that we have to delve into each one of these particular verticals because there's people out there who are going, I really want to do this, but I don't know how I'm going to support myself.
Okay.
And I think that's a huge issue that a lot of people need to get over.
Okay. I think you can't really come at it from what can I learn to do this. I think
Mm,
it's more what do I know how to do
right.
that would make this accessible. So there's a couple of things because what I found traveling all around South America and Asia was that there's not a lot of computer literacy.
Mm,
And so that's a given here.
hmm
Everybody knows how to use. So that could be something. Now, I don't know about paid, but you could definitely get room and board for teaching people that, like
mm.
with a nonprofit. And I didn't do that, but I did other things and got room and board. My son taught me how to do this. You just like land in a place that you think you might have stayed. Like this is what I did in Colombia for 10 days.
Hmm.
And so I got free room. I got a free room in a decent guest house and made my own food in their kitchen. So I
Nice.
wasn't spending any money. And plus, living in this little town didn't cost much. And did English conversation.
Oh, and that's what they were asking for?
Yeah, I
Excellent.
suggested it.
Anybody could
And
do that.
anybody could do it. So that's the thing. It's like start out with something. Maybe you can teach people how to use a computer. Like, no one, like, so many people need to learn that. And then with the photography thing, I would do that as volunteer too because their pictures were so bad. Like they didn't have good, cameras,
Please let
and
me help you.
it was just like, oh my God, yeah, I do get paid for this where I'm from, but I'll do it for you so you have a decent website because
Right.
the one you have is just you can't even look at it. I mean, honestly. And so it depends on, if you want to do a volunteer project like that, you can get a place to stay that's
Right.
not, I mean, all the places I stayed were not bad. But as far as getting paid, I would say one thing you can do, and I have done this, is I got a TEFL um, certificate, which I haven't had to use for anything, but it was a really difficult
Mm.
test and all that. You could start doing that, teaching English online, and probably make enough money with a little bit of savings to make it work to start.
Right. So if you teach English online to others before you actually leave, then you can
Yeah,
start filling up your coffers. And then while you're away, you can still do the same thing, right? There's
yeah.
nothing stopping you from going online and Preply or whatever the sites are that allows you to list yourself as someone who can help you with English. Because there's
Well,
so many people around the world who need English.
and and I just met this nice lady in Sicily who was a friend of my friend Paula. She's from England, but she lives in Sicily and she does private English teaching
Wow. You see,
and
that's a
makes
thing
enough
a
money.
skill we all have.
Yeah.
We all have, and we just take it for granted that we could actually make some money off it.
So she makes between like 20 and 30 euros an hour, which
Nice.
isn't bad. Like, because she's living in a low cost place. Her apartment, I think she said, was 300 euros a month.
Oh my God, that's great.
I know. And so, when you put it with, okay, you're going to make less money, but with the costs being lower, because she's long term, how did she find that apartment? In a pub,
Yeah.
making friends with people that she was drinking with. And see, this is why I say you cannot do everything online.
Yeah.
You have to go to these places, meet people, talk to them, show your face. I'm telling you, it's going to change your total experience. And so that's why I'm making a thing about this. It's like you cannot do it all online.
Yeah. And the thing is that you also have to remember, like we were saying before, is that it is cheaper. So if
Yeah.
you come in with your American perception, you go, I need to make $100,000 a year to do this. It's like, no, you don't. You can get by with a fraction of that. You can live anywhere almost anywhere else in the world with at a fraction of that, and you don't need to make as much as you think. in order to do this,
Right.
right? So those
Now,
two things are aligned.
and I would say if you were nervous about how much money you can make, because I'm used to having my income go up and down, that's fine.
Mm,
I know I'm going to make it, but I'm okay with it. But some people wouldn't be. So I'd say save up at least half the cost of the trip, and then you have, a cushion. It's good
yeah,
to have a cushion.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's what you were doing, right? You were saving a bunch of money and then you were going, and then once half is spent, is that when you start moving again, or you got closer to the end?
Every single one is different depending on my behavior. So, so like this last trip to Sicily, I was like, now you can't go out all the time. So what I was doing, because then it would be thousands more. So what I
Hmm.
was doing was when my friend from Florence came down to see me, we went to some great restaurants, rented a car, I splashed out.
Hmm.
But then I went back to making all my meals, which I like.
Yeah,
I like having my own
you're still
apartment.
eating amazing food.
Oh, the food is, I miss the markets.
Yes.
I miss going to pick out the tomatoes and the oranges, and I love that
Yeah, you don't
stuff.
have that
That's,
here. That's and the quality of the funny is actually, California quality is probably the best quality in the States,
yeah,
but still it's not as good as you can get what you can get in Europe.
it's not as good and it's more expensive, so it's a little disappointing. But I did find some good tomatoes at Trader Joe's, but
Oh, that's good. Good to know.
but I just want to say that you how I've done it is actually I came back with some money this time, so I didn't blow my whole budget.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So, but so look critically at everything that you need to know how to do and understand that there's a demand for stuff that we just take for granted here. We just take, especially like you said, English. English is something else that it's kind of like we all speak it. We all speak it fairly well. And when you leave this country, there's plenty of people who would love to know how to speak better English,
Yeah,
and they're willing to pay you for it.
and they will pay. So like in regards to the volunteering, I would just like go to schools and walk in the door and they'd say, "You can take over the class now."
Wow.
That's what happened to me more than a few times. In India, where
Nice.
else? And so, and in Colombia too. So
Hmm.
you just don't know how valuable that skill is.
Yeah.
And the same with computer training and what else?
Yeah, the stuff that we just take for granted that we do every day. And I think that's a problem with a lot of people who have these skills that they've been using all of their lives. They devalue them because they have been using them all their lives, and the things are like second nature to you. You don't put as much value on it, but for other people, and it's the same with kind of writing and podcasting and putting stuff online. Some people think, oh, no one's going to read this because there's a million other people doing the same thing. It doesn't matter because people want your specific journey. They want to see
I
your
like that.
story, your
You're right.
viewpoint. It doesn't matter if there's 1,000 people who are writing on this topic. You're
Hmm.
1,001, but you could still be interesting and compelling because your story is different from everybody else's.
Absolutely agree. It's so
Nice.
true. And that's why you don't know until you go to these countries and find out what's going on, who needs what's, something they just don't get enough of.
Yeah, and more than likely you can probably provide it because you've been doing it every day of your life.
Yeah. I mean, oh, and another thing I thought of was cooking. When my son, so he had this foundation for women and girls in Nepal, in Kathmandu. And he even was buying land and got, funding.
Nice.
And he started this cafe and he asked me, as I used to be a commercial cook before photography
Mm,
1,000 years ago. So he
nice.
was like, when you come here, I want you to show the girls how to make smoothies the way you make them and some other, expat kind of things. And I thought, hey, that would be another way for people to do a volunteer project that want, so he was doing it as a social entrepreneurship thing, and that would be a way to show people like in Asia, okay, this is what expats would want, like a grilled cheese sandwich. You cannot get a grilled cheese sandwich that's any good anywhere in Thailand. I have tried. So it's just stuff like that, or a
Yeah.
smoothie with enough yogurt in it.
Yeah.
It's like they put a little teaspoon. It's like, oh no, it's got to be a cup. Are you kidding?
That's right.
And so just little things like that could make them money. So I mean, that's another whole thing.
Yeah.
You wouldn't probably be paid, but you'd probably get free room and board for
Exactly.
that.
Exactly. And that's the other bit. Well, we should do we're gonna definitely have to do a show on bartering, like
Yes.
how to trade work for money. Because you're right. I mean, there's lots of countries where you can't actually get paid to do these things because it's against the law. So here's other ways to
Yeah.
do it.
There's other ways. And you can
Awesome.
help people a lot by doing that and not spend hardly any money.
I love it. All right. Well, it's time. Our time's up. So great talking to you again. This is always awesome. Fun every time. So we'll talk next time.
Okay, great.
Enjoy.
Good talking to you,
Talk
Chris.
to you later.
Okay,
Bye.
bye-bye.
Oh, I'm living that nomad life, city to city, feeling alive from mountain tops to ocean drives unchained.